So, you're wanting to use Canva to elevate your Cricut projects. This is a great workaround if you don't currently use Cricut Access inside Design Space, and it will open up a whole world of possibilities within your projects. We have a number of videos already on our YouTube channel where I do Cricut projects, and I have used Canva in the design process, but I haven't necessarily taken the time to break that down because it was adding way too many steps and the video would have been way too long. So we asked if you wanted a bit more information about that, and you said yes, so here we are. I'm going to go over a few different tools and techniques in today's video, all of which I will put timestamps for in the description box below so you can jump ahead if certain elements are more relevant for you, to try and give you an overview of how you could apply it to your project. So it may not be the most sensible way to do it for what I've got in front of me, or there may be other ways to do it inside Cricut itself, even without access on these particular things, but I'm just using examples to give you the techniques that you might then be able to apply to what you're doing to give you workarounds, because this really is about workarounds. And I am assuming in this that you're not using Cricut Access. So again, creating those capabilities through Canva, as well as having loads of additional things like all the additional fonts and being able to bring those across into Cricut. Also, apologies if I say Cricut and Canva the wrong way around a few times. There's just too many C's for my brain. But hopefully context will make it clear. So, first up, I am going to just show you how to export a simple monogram from Canva into Cricut. So, using one color, one layer, just getting it out of Canva into Cricut so that you can cut your design out of vinyl, card, whatever, for your wedding event, etc. Then I'm also going to show you how to do it so that if you're wanting to create your ultimate design out of more than one color or material, there's extra steps then involved so that you can have those multiple elements. So I'll show you how to do that. And then I think the final thing we'll touch on is how to deal with the sizing of the image. So if your ultimate project is going to be bigger than the 12-inch width of the Cricut machine, since obviously has that limitation, again, a workaround that you can use with Canva to get that ultimate result. So timestamps in the description box below, but we're going to kick off with the first very simple, exporting your design. And I say, I'm going to use a monogram, one I did earlier. If you want to know more about how to actually make and create your monogram and do that design work inside Canva, I have got those videos on our channel and I'll put them in the description box below so you can jump to those as well. So, moving over to Canva. Here is one I did earlier, just to get a bit Blue Peter on you. This is a design, again, you could create this design directly in Cricut. It's not that you couldn't. It's more complicated without having access, but let's just make that assumption that we don't have Cricut Access inside Design Space. So I've made this design. I want to now be able to cut it, so I need to get it over into Cricut. So with it up on my screen, I'm going to come to the top right where it says Share. Select that, go to Download, and then as you'll see, it brings up a choice of settings, including choosing your file type. I like to pick the PNG option, and you can upload that file type into Cricut, so that's no problem. And then I'm going to do mine with a transparent background. This, again, is helpful for cutting. If you don't have the paid for platform of Canva, which I do, but if you don't, you won't be able to select this transparent background option. You'll see from this little crown here that that is part of their premium platform. So if you don't have that, that's not a problem. You've just got another step to do once you get it into Cricut, which I will mention how to do. But let's do it like this for now. Then make sure you've got the right page screen. If you've only got one, it's not a problem, but so mine doesn't, so we'll just do that. So I've set the current page, so it's the one that's on my screen, and hit download. And obviously save it somewhere. Then I'm gonna open my Cricut Design Space, and just on a blank canvas, I'm going to kick things off by uploading that design in here. So you come over to the left hand pane, select the second from the bottom option of upload image, and then you're going to put the file in here. So wherever you saved it, either browse or just click and drag across. Once it's loaded in, come to the bottom right corner, hit continue. And then it gives you like a preview of what you're uploading. So I'm just gonna make this bigger for all our purposes. So you see, it kind of came in transparent, but not entirely. This is where if you didn't have any option to bring in a transparent background, this is where you deal with that. So because this actually hasn't done it, I get the opportunity to show you. So as you can see here, it on the left side where it says manual select, we're going to use that function to get rid of the backgrounds, the areas that we don't want to end up on our project. So everything here that you can see with this like checkered background, that's transparent. That's not going to show up. That's what we want to see. But I've currently got this grey box over mine. I don't want that. So with this icon selected, I'm going to now just simply click on that grey box, and it got rid of that whole area. So if you've got more items to do, just keep clicking on all those bits and bobs. If you want to be able to see if you've got everything, make sure it's all clean and how you want it. It's handily got this feature in the top right which says preview single layer. Slide that toggle along and it will change it so you can see what you've been left with. Again, you can then keep clicking around, remove stuff if you need to. And once you're happy, apply and continue. We're then going to pick the single layer option in the middle. The left hand side one you need Cricut Access for. So because we're going to pretend we're doing a cut project, so card, vinyl, that kind of thing, we're going to use the single layer one in the middle and hit continue and hit upload. And then there you go, you've got it inside Cricut Access. Congratulations. And now you can resize in here, make it whatever size you want. So you've still got the ability to edit to some degree once you're in here. And also, obviously, the design that I've got here is in black. Please don't think that that has to remain black. You can now put a piece of gold vinyl or silver, whatever card in your machine, and that's what it will cut it out of. You can change it in here if you really want to. Yeah, you're not fixed to black just because it was there, but you are fixed to, as in this example, to this one singular color, whatever that might be. So with that as it is, and say this is the most simple version, you then hit make and then select the right material and away you go. Jobs are good. So let's mix things up. Let's now look at the idea that we want to create something out of more than one material, or at least more than one color. You could of course cut the whole thing twice out of two different things, but that's the most simple way to do it, I suppose, but it also wastes quite a lot of materials. So particularly if you're wanting to do it more than one, like for more than one thing, not just a one-off project. So let's imagine we want the words Alice and Will in the middle to be in a different colour to the A and the W behind. There are two ways to go about this, and I'm going to show you both because it will very much depend on your specific project about how is best to go about this. So, because this project is in a rectangle, and it makes it quite easy for me to pick up, I'm gonna do this one first. So this is going to be the best technique if you have a very simple shape like this. So let me continue and it'll become obvious why. If you don't have this kind of simple thing, you'll need the next explanation. Again, timestamps below. I'm gonna, from the shapes on the left side, I'm gonna pick a rectangle. I'm gonna unlock the padlock to let me mess with the ratios. I'm gonna come along here, and I want to basically come over the top of where it says Alice and Will, but only where it says Alice and Will. So let me just resize that, making sure I'm covering the entirety of the bit I'm trying to pick up to separate out. This is about trying to separate out the layers, or to give you layers. So this, I say, workarounds, fiddling, it's all a bit itty bitty, I'm sorry. But hopefully it will all become clear. So I've now covered this up with a shape. Pick the shape or angle that's most appropriate for you, but obviously if you can't get it clean like this because of your design, this is not the approach for you. But if it is, we're now going to click a mouse and drag over the top of the two shapes. So as you can see on the right hand side, it's picked up both of those items, they're both highlighted. This is then the trick. You come down to the bottom right where it says slice. You're going to select that option. And now you'll see on the right side, it's now created 4 different items. You don't need all these items, so we're going to get rid of them. We're going to delete out that box we just created. It was purely to do this. So we delete that out. It looks the same, but it's not. If you now click that section, you see it's now in its own text box essentially. So you can click and drag that out. You don't need that either. If you click this again, now you'll see you have it as a separate item to this, like your original shape. So that still holds, that will still cut as is. Obviously, like, it's not held together in every spot, but you'll use your transfer tape, if you're using vinyl, for example, to pick that up and move it onto your project. All good. So say we're keeping the background black, but you want now this part that's here to be elevated. You want it to pop. So maybe you're going to do it in a different color. To tell your machine you're going to do them out of 2 different things and it not just stay like this, you'll come up to where it says material colors at the top, select that blob, and then choose just anything different, which will put it on a different mat. But obviously feel free to choose a color that is most closely representative of the vinyl or whatever you're going to pick. It doesn't matter, it just so that it knows not to put it on the same mat. So now when you come to make, it will change it onto 2 different mats, like so. So now you've got the AW on your black, for example, not necessarily black mat, and the Alice and Will on another mat, and you'll simply bring them back together as you're adhering them to your tote bag, whatever it is that you're putting this monogram or your design on. So now you've got those 2 layers. Okay, rejoining me if you haven't got this nice linear way of separating out the layers. So let's pretend it's a different element we want to adjust. You're going to come back over to Canva for this. So now, on the assumption that you don't have the straightforward shape that I do, yours is more complicated, the workaround that I would pick for that personally is to now move out and separate these layers. So you just start to like adjust them and you end up with them separated like so. So all I've done was move them around. You could do 1 item per page if you want. So you can add a page and then put a W on this, and so you save several files. I just don't think that's necessary. So let's not do that, but you could do that. So now with them separated out, I'm going to save this file just like before, share in the top right, download. So I've got the PNG because that works for me. Cricut accepts that file type. I'm still choosing transparent background. If you weren't with me for the previous steps, I'm choosing transparent background. If you don't have that function, I will show you how to do it when we get over to Cricut. And I'm gonna just do the current page. So hit download, save it where you save things. Now moving back over to Cricut, I'll just leave this original one here, it's no big deal. That's one we did earlier if you've jumped ahead in the timestamps, so you'll just need a blank canvas. Then we're all going to go over to upload on the left and upload your image. So from wherever you saved it, you can either browse or you can just drag and drop. So I've got that there. I'm going to hit continue in the bottom right. And so you've now got all of your elements there. However, you can see that part of my design isn't transparent at the moment, which is the background of where it says Alice and Will. From before, where I mentioned if you didn't have the paid for Canva platform, you wouldn't have been able to choose transparent background at all, which is fine because this is where you will correct it, as in my last example. So the checkerboard you can see on the background of mine, that means transparent. That's great. That's the part we don't want on our final project. Again, so if there are things you need to get rid of, like I do, come over to the left where it says manual, select will already be selected, and then you can go ahead and start clicking on the things you want to get rid of. I'm going to zoom in for visibility purposes to this part that I want to clean up. So saying I'm just going to click on that and away it goes. As with the last example, you can come up to preview single layer, slide that toggle along, and it will let you check that everything you thought you got rid of, that you've gotten rid of. You can see in the middle of my A, that's not played ball. So I can just select inside the middle of there and it's gone. So that's a really useful function. Then when you're happy that and confident it is as you want it to be, hit apply and continue. Again, as before, sorry if you're watching the whole thing, as if you jumped ahead with timestamps. We're going to select single layer in the middle so that you can cut out of your vinyl card, etc. because we're assuming we don't have Cricut Access for that first option. Hit continue, save somewhere if you want to save it again, and it drops it in. Obviously, you can resize this by clicking and moving around. I would suggest doing the resizing whilst all the elements are still grouped at this stage. This will mean that you can resize these elements all in one go rather than fiddling around. So now we essentially need to put this back together inside Cricut. So this is just something you would do, say, if you've got a more complex project and you feel like you can't create it inside Canva, or you've got fonts that you really like that inside Canva, so you can get those across. You can upload your own fonts to Cricut. I have done that with several fonts, but again, I just find it easier still to do inside Canva. So this is all about flexibility and being able to be more creative. So anyway, pep talk aside, this is where the elements will now be the same as the previous example. So shapes on the left ribbon, we are going to probably select this rectangle and we're going to drag it over the top of each of these elements. So we're going to do this a couple of times. We're going to stretch this over the top of the shape, come out of it, and then we're going to select the two items. So the new rectangle that we've just created and this original group of shapes. So clicking and dragging over until it picks both items up, which you can verify by looking at that right hand ribbon. So you can see the two items are there. Coming down to the bottom right where it says slice, select that. You can see now a bunch of things have happened over here on this ribbon, but essentially you're just going to start deleting stuff. So now you can get rid of that rectangle we just made. You don't need it anymore. It was purely to create these layers. So you don't need that one. This essentially has now become isolated. So you can now do what you want. These are still joined together. That's still a problem, but exact same steps. So just very quickly, same thing, shape over the top. Just going to move that out of the way. Clicking, dragging, it selected the two things I want, slicing, deleting, and then that's isolated. And you don't need to do it again because that's now the only shape left. So they're both like that. So this is great now. So say I didn't want to make Alice and Will the different colour. Let's say I wanted to make the A and W a different colour. say I want to make them gold on my final designs. Let's put this into represent gold. You've got your 3 elements. You can cut them just as is if you wanted to. You don't even have to recreate it inside Cricut. So you could just send to make and cut out of the piece of cardboard or whatever and bring it back together and stick it however you want. You can do that, or if you want it to still be a cohesive shape, you want it to cut out of vinyl, you don't want the extra bumps and layers, so you have to rebuild it. So using my original as a guide, so you might need to flip back to Canva for your original design if you can't see it, because that is helpful. I'm going to rebuild it here. So I've layered those. However, as you can see, it is going to still just cut as 2 different shapes right now. So I need to bring those together. I'm going to select both of those items and come down to the bottom right where it says combine. So the second item along, select unite and watch the magic happen. You can see it's now gotten rid of all those lines. This is now a unified shape in the way that we want. If you now want to still have that cut element between them, we're going to have to rebuild that. So I'm going to use my rectangle. Again, it really depends on what your design is like. But as I say, this is a workaround. So this is how I'm going to do it. So I'm using that rectangle, I'm resizing it, basically just rebuilding it inside Cricut. And so this workaround really is for more complex designs. So let's just, for ease, make that white. Okay, so I've just temporarily put back in the names for the sort of purposes of sizing. I'm going to move that out the way again. And I'm going to use the exact same technique of the slice function. So I'm going to click, drag over the top, slice, and now I'm going to delete out to create that gap in the middle. So just to, as I show you this, when you then hit make, will separate out onto the 2 mats. So because you've chosen to do it out of 2 different colours or perhaps 2 different materials. So you've got the Alice and Will, and then on the other mat you have got the A and the W. So that is 2 different kind of techniques, workarounds, depending on what you're dealing with. The last one that I'm going to look at today is to do with if you're doing quite a big project that's perhaps bigger than the 12-inch width diameter of your Cricut. So you can get longer cutting mats with Cricut, but you can't go wider. You can't go wider than the physical machine. And obviously also your material might not be bigger. So again, it's how do we deal with that? Let's resize this. We're now at 15 inches by 14 inches. Again, it depends on your project, of course. So 2 sort of workarounds depending what the issue is. So if you've got different elements like this, where if you separated them out individually, they wouldn't be bigger than 12 by 12. And that would probably be the cleanest way to do it. So you would then just rebuild it directly on your design. So if you can choose that workaround, I would, and bring back in those elements. So simply drop them back in. So using that image that we had before, I'm going to do the exact same thing with shapes and separate out those layers. I'm just going to do it with one for now because there's no need to show you them all because it's just an example. So click, drag over the 2 things, select slice, and then delete out the additional layers, and you can see that A is now on its own, and on its own, for me, it wouldn't be bigger than the 12 by 12, and then I would just layer these individual elements. So repeat that for each part and stick them back together on the project, because now that will fit on your mat. If that's still not a possibility, you have to maybe use a slightly uglier solution, and use the slice function again to chop your design up into pieces and again kind of bring it back together at the end. So I would, again, big fan of the rectangle, bring it across the part that you want to cut. Try to bring it across maybe on parts where there's already natural lines, so maybe you would want to line it up directly with the bottom of the A or something, just to hide and conceal these lines. Or obviously, because this design is going to have a cutout in the middle anyway, maybe I'm going to choose to make a cut already here. There's lots of ways of doing this. It really depends what you're doing. But you would click, drag over the top of the two, slice, delete out what you don't need, and then these individual boxes are now hopefully smaller than 12 by 12. And then hit make and bring them back together on your project. So those are the three elements that I said I was going to go over today about how to bring your Canva project over into Cricut. I know it's all a bit bitty and tricky perhaps, but hopefully you've found ways to apply those, at least some of those techniques, to whatever your design is. If you've got questions, do drop them in the comments box below and I'll try and help out, because it is all workaround stuff, so it's not perfect. It's very dependent on what it is you're doing, but I'm hoping that those tools and techniques are enough to kind of help you negotiate what you're trying to do. But hopefully you liked the video. If you did, if you could give it a like. So if you've got any video requests, things you want me to focus on more, do let me know in the comments below, because that really helps us to shape future content and make sure we're giving you what you want and need. If you want to learn how to make your very own monogram inside Canva, we've got that tutorial for you already made and ready to go as well. That will be linked in the description box below. But yeah, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this.